you're not going to be here?
No. Okay. We're live. We're live. Okay. All right. I'm going to call to order the Raymore Park Board meeting Tuesday, November 28th, 2017. Roll call, please.
Member Castleman.
Present.
Member Cipolla. Absent. Member Eastwood's absent. Member Harris.
Present.
Member Heath.
Present.
Member Howdy Show.
Present.
Member Seamers.
Present. Member
Troutman.
Present.
Chairman Manson.
Present. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we have no personal appearances tonight. I'll move toward the acceptance of the minutes from the October 24th, 2017 meeting.
I move we accept the minutes from the October 24th, 2017 meeting.
Second.
All right, the motion's been made and seconded. Any amendments or changes to the minutes? Seeing none, I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor? All right, minutes have been accepted. Committee reports. We have Recreation Committee meeting on October 24th. Director Mustine.
Thank you, sir. I will call on Recreation Superintendent McLean to make a report on that committee.
Thank you, sir. On Tuesday, October 24th, we did hold a Recreation Committee meeting prior to Park Board meeting. A couple of topics of conversation. First off, we did have a very good discussion on the report status of where we are currently at with Centerview, the facility rentals, the bookings, the inquiries, what types of events we are seeing the most popular interest in. And so that was one of the topics of conversation. Another topic, I definitely wanted to hit some of the highlights with the new coordinators coming in. So we had a discussion on athletics with that. We discussed the pay rates of the officials that we currently have, the structure we have compared to other cities comparable to our size, as well as our offerings of the program and the South Metro Sports Group that we are currently a part of. So we had a breakdown of how those other municipalities utilize the breakdown for pay for different age divisions in baseball and softball. And then finally, we just discussed some highlighted new staff member ideas for special events and programming that we are going to be seeing highlighted in the program guide that staff has been working on this month and will be released in January. And that's a sum of the report for the Recreation Committee meeting.
Are there any questions regarding that meeting? All right. Thank you, sir. All right, there were we had no meetings for budget or grounds. Moving on to staff reports. Director Mustine.
Thank you, sir. I'll call on Recreation Superintendent McLean again for a recreation report.
Thank you, sir. I have submitted a written report for this month's meeting. Would just like to highlight a couple of items, mainly for this month. We wrapped up a lot of fall programming, gearing up for winter. One of those highlighted winter events, of course, is this weekend, or this Friday. We're having the lighting of the mayor's Christmas tree at TB Hanna Station. So we have currently staff, parks crew, as well as recreation staff. We're out there today and they've been preparing, getting all the starting preparations ready for Friday's event. We do have the return of the Christmas tree trail. This year we are up to 14 vendors sponsoring that and bringing out their trees and decorating their trees, and that is up from the 11 we had last year. course, we also have the petting zoo. We've got a new photo area with props that people can partake in. And then, of course, we have Santa. The same Santa that we had last year is returning, thank goodness. Cookies and cocoa, and all of this kicks off about 6 o'clock, and this event also kicks off the coat drive that the mayor is having this year. So we would like to see everybody in attendance this Friday. It looks like great weather, so we're looking forward to it. So, and then athletic coordinator Brennan has been working on basketball, gearing up for basketball. We have coaches meeting on Thursday night, so we're starting to work on getting practices lined up, working with the school district, and getting that season underway. So at this time, I would be glad to answer any questions.
Brian?
Yeah, the festivities Friday for the tree lighting start at 6. What time do you think they'll actually light the tree? Will they do that right at 6, or?
No, the mayor will have a little time to talk. We'll introduce a guest switch flipper, and I believe usually it's about 15 or 20 minutes. So, you know, about 6:15 is when the light will go on.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you, Superintendent.
Thank you.
Director Mustine.
Thank you, sir. I'll call on Park Superintendent Rulo to make a parks report.
Thank you very much. I submitted a written report also in your packet. Wanted to hit on a few things. The MDC did stock Johnston Lake with trout on November 7th. The turnout has been very favorable, just like last year. They're catching fish. They love it out there, and I'm sure they love the weather also. We put in, I think they've stocked about 800, a little over 800 and close to 900 fish, and then they'll come back in February and they'll put another about 800, 900 fish in also. We're hoping that the fishermen out there really appreciate having 2 different times going in, and one a little warmer, next time probably a little colder. So Parks also wanted to let you all know that the park staff did finally get the water fountain tapped out at Ward Park Place. The fountain is not on top of the pad yet, but we have got all the water to it. The water fountain will be put on the pad shortly, along with the installation of a new pergola over the picnic table out there. So that's going to be put in by park staff. So just a thanks to the Public Works Department. They helped us tap the water out there also, and along with the Cass County Water Department, sorry. Then just one other thing, I just wanted to remind everybody about the Boy Scout Christmas tree recycling program on January 6th. There'll be a Christmas tree drop-off at the Park House. I believe it goes from 8 to 1. And as you go up the driveway, there'll be people there telling you where to go, but the drop-off is going to be right off the back deck of the house. So with that, I'll entertain any questions.
Brian?
Yes, sir. 2 questions. Ward Park, thanks for that. That will go up again, that still be this fall, or would that be a spring project to tap the fountain and all that?
The fountain is tapped right now, but the water will be shut off here shortly by the county. So the fountain will be installed, so you'll be able to see it at the same time that the pergola goes up. So
okay.
Here in hopefully here, about 3 weeks.
But the water will be shut off for the winter?
Yes.
And come back on the spring?
Yeah, all water is winterized for the park system right now.
Okay. The second question, the Christmas tree recycling program, can you remind me, because in January we're changing waste services here in the city, and I believe, if I recall right, they don't start picking up yard waste until March-ish timeframe. So is this, I mean, they have to use the Boy Scouts for the tree recycling, right? For Christmas tree recycling? Or, I mean, because it won't be picked up at their curb, or will it?
It's my understanding they'll need to find their own, but I can find out and send
Yeah.
an email out to the park board on that and verify
Yeah,
that.
I mean, I just like to say, if this is a good option that everybody really has without having to go take it somewhere, I mean, to the landfill or something like that, then this is their option, because I remember last year this came up, and I don't think they picked up Christmas trees.
Yeah, it's a great option for a small donation. It goes to a good cause,
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
Melinda?
Just to piggyback on that, yeah, because I think next year they go through the end of December and they're off, January and February and start back up in March. But since we're still on that program, yeah, I think that we have to utilize that if you want to do something easy. Otherwise, you got to take care of yourself. So that's my understanding.
Anyone else? All right. Thank you, Superintendent. Director Musty?
Thank you, sir. I will follow up with Mr. Ike on that and send out an email to the board answering that question for you. Just a couple quick things. I submitted our monthly report to the City Council last night. We also are wrapping up, actually, the project at Memorial Park, the improvement projects. Couple different projects, if you'll recall, the aprons around the baseball diamonds and the bleacher platform for the tennis court. That is complete. And currently, Tandem Paving is wrapping up the asphalt portion of the trail in the parking lot. They began pouring asphalt today in the parking lot. The base is laid for the trail around the park. The sidewalk around the west parking lot is complete, as well as the border around the playground and the additional curb. So these guys are really moving and getting this done, and it's going to look great. You guys are going to be very pleased with that. This is also the first in the domino of improvements over at Memorial Park. You'll recall we have the Arboretum that we've been waiting for this project to be complete to begin the Arboretum. So upon completion of this over the winter, we will order the signs and the educational signs for the Arboretum, get those things ordered, and we should be able to wrap up that Arboretum for the most part for a Arbor Day opening for the Arboretum. That's our intention and our goal to do that. So if you haven't had a chance to go by Memorial Park, please do so. I think in the long run, this project is going to be something that we're all going to be very proud of. In conjunction with that, tomorrow, Mr. Rulo and I will be working with the mayor and the Rotary Club to plant 14 trees along the south connector of the trail at Memorial Park. So it's that portion of the trail that you see from Lucy Webb looking north, that long piece. They're currently, they pulled up the old trail, laid the base down for that. They'll be asphalting that in the next 2 days, but tomorrow morning we'll be planting trees along that portion of the trail in conjunction with the Rotary Club. So that's a good project, and we're thankful that they're coming out to help us with that. Just a quick update on Hockridge Park. The preliminary plans have been submitted to the city, and that is the site design, site plans, some of the construction documents. They've all been distributed to the various departments for their review and submittals. Comments based on anything that they might see that needs adjustments or anything go back to our design consultants, and then they'll make those adjustments, and the design consultants will present the entire plan to the P&Z, Planning and Zoning, on December 19th. Upon approval of P&Z, we begin preparing bid documents, so we hope to be bidding this early January. So Hockridge Park is moving right along. Pretty excited about that. And I will be working on a proposal for TB Hanna Station through the CIP committee on Monday, and presenting those things to Mr. Fearborn in preparation of presentation to the board in an upcoming work session or meeting, whichever is the timing works out, whichever one. So things are moving. It may be winter and we may be coming up on a lot of cold weather, but projects don't stop. There's a lot of things behind the scenes that can be done, and so we have a pretty hefty CIP program coming this year, so we're trying real hard to stay on top of that and keep things moving, and that includes the bond projects. And that concludes staff report.
Any questions for the director? All right. Thank you, sir. Moving on, we have no old business. We'll move on to new business. This is in relation to an MOU for unlimited play. This is an action item that will require a vote by the board. Staff report will be given by Director Musting.
Thank you, sir. If you'll recall, in our previous park board meeting in October, I highlighted a road trip that Mr. Rulo and I took to on the St. Louis side to visit Unlimited Play. It's a nonprofit organization that specializes in the design of all-inclusive playgrounds. And when we came back, I know Steve and I were both kind of on a high from what we saw and the potential that we feel like Hockridge Park could be for this program and the things that they could bring to our city. And so I took the time between the meetings to research and talk with them about what could we do, how could we partner with these folks and really put our inclusive playground above and beyond anything local, especially Cass County, that would not only be an amenity to the city, but be a draw for other folks to come in. So what we have before you tonight, it's a sample or basically their boilerplate MOU that they use, and I wanted you guys to see that. And the purpose of this report and asking for this action item is I want to present this to the board and get direction from the board before we move forward and do any other groundwork with these folks and before we move to city council. So that is why we're asking for an action item tonight. What we want to do is we would like to partner with Unlimited Play and contract them for help in the design and the layout of this inclusive playground. That's what they do. They're the pros at it, and I'll be able to answer any questions from that or about that from you if you have any. The next step is these playgrounds are not cheap. It very much exceeds the budget that we have for this playground. So there's a fundraising effort, and this is where they really come in to play in helping us put together a fundraising team and a strategy to go out and raise the dollars that will elevate this playground into something much more than we can afford with the money that we have. And that's what's unique about this partnership. I've provided all of you a small packet of information on Unlimited Play, some things that they have done. And I apologize, I wasn't here last week to be able to insert this into the packet, but I wanted to make sure you received this. At the beginning is a small article on Natalie. She is the founder of Unlimited Play, and she has a son with special needs, and the whole organization began with her desire to build a playground for her son that is in a wheelchair and has those special needs, that he can play alongside other children. From that, the second page is a picture of the ground opening of that playground that they built. The closest playground that they've been involved with that would be similar to what we're proposing would be McCoy Park in Independence. And if you have a chance to go see that, I know we have a staff have gone there and seen that. It's worth the drive over there to look at, especially if you got kids, because it's not just kids with special needs to go play. I mean, these playgrounds are intended to be used by people of all abilities. It doesn't matter. So you don't know the difference of how they're built, and that's what's unique about them. The playground in McCoy Park was a $1.3 million playground. I hesitate to say we're going to go for that. That's a pretty lofty goal, but I wanted you to see that is something that's within driving distance so that you guys can go check that out. They are familiar with our local region and working with cities on the Kansas City side of the state. And finally, on the back, this was taken from their website. There's a couple playgrounds they call it at the title. It's called In the Works. It's just an update on playgrounds that they've got going with the fundraising efforts showed there. And then the back two pages are playgrounds that they have completed. So I just wanted to provide this to the board tonight, just for a little extra background to show you what they're capable of and what we are hoping to be able to accomplish through this partnership. In summary, Hockridge Park we've gone through this design with the Confluence in Hockridge Park, and we've developed a plan, a master plan for that playground. And if you'll recall, there's 5 different areas of that playground that we wanted to do the core component with this GEO bond project, and then fund the rest of those within our CIP plan over the next several years. So much so that we've actually already budgeted in that program 2 of those pods in the next 4 years. What we want to do is take that core playground out of this bond project and do it separately. So the rest of the park would get built moving forward as is. The playground area would just be graded out and ready to go. And then we step in and we work with Unlimited Play. The board works with Unlimited Play to design this playground. You guys will have a very in-depth role of designing this playground. And then we put a strategy together to go forth and raise the funds from that. We have some money within that GEO bond that we'll designate towards this playground, but it's not enough, and that's where we go. Unlimited Play feels like we're in a good position because, number one, we have a plan in place. We're already grading and moving forward. We have the property. All of these steps that in most cases, these other playgrounds, they've had to do that portion of it. We were already there. The second part is we have funding for it to begin. So we have what we would call seed money to begin that. We also have a mechanism to accept donations through our park foundation. And so depending on how we proceed tonight will give me the go-ahead to enlist the park foundation and present to them and see if they would be interested in doing that. And what we would do is within that foundation earmark a separate account for all donations that would go strictly to the Hockridge Park playground. They would handle all those donations and stuff, and then the foundation would take the role of distributing those monies and paying, and whether it be transferred to the city to pay the bills or they pay that, we'll work those details out. But we have all those little things in place ready to go, which is what was intriguing for Unlimited Play. The next step from here, if the park board chooses to do this, would be a joint work session with the city council. And I struggled with whether this would be kind of a chicken or the egg. Where do we go first? And I decided, really, I need your input. I want to know what the board thinks before we move forward and do work session with the council, put an MOU before the council, all of those things. I wanted to bring this to you. I know we've touched on it in a previous meeting, but tonight's the night for you to ask any questions, give any input, and give staff direction. The MOU does require a monetary commitment. That's part of the contract. You have 2 options with that. It's a $10,000 contract, and what that does is the design. It also includes the marketing and the steps towards the fundraising, and it will also enlist them for a portion of the construction. They will be there through the end of the project when we grand open. Once we ribbon cut, that's really when they're complete and they're done and they walk away, and the whole playground is ours at that point. They have no more involvement in that. That money, you have 2 options, and I'll take direction from that, and then we'll move forward with the city manager to make sure that he's comfortable with either one of those directions. But we can do a budget amendment from our fund balance, or we can use that $10,000 or $10,000 of that money that's already designated towards that playground out of the GEO bond. Either way, the fundraising efforts will recuperate that money. So it's really just a direction from the park board of how you'd like to proceed. A budget amendment would be an extra step. We'd have to come back to the board for an official action of the board to do that budget amendment, or we can move forward with the GEO bond money, and that would just be part of that project that we already have in place. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions and look forward to the comments.
Melinda.
Okay, I have a mini, so I'll just start with one and then I'll step off for a second. One, how long do they typically take to raise these funds, and how much I'm going to make this multifaceted. How much are they thinking we're going to need to raise, and who are they targeting whenever they go to raise these funds. So
The dollar amount that is designated to raise will depend on the design that we as a board and as a staff will select. So the more elaborate that we go, the more money that we'll need.
ballpark, though, I mean,
These that you see on the back end of this, the packet that I gave you range from $250,000 to $1.5 million. I mean, they're kind of all over the board. I would say right now, in just what Steve and I saw over on the St. Louis side of the state, we would somewhere between $250,000 to $500,000 would be more than sufficient to do what we have planned and had intended for this particular site.
any idea what something like her son's, what was that called? Was it Gus's? No, Zach's. Pardon?
1.3 million was in McCoy Park. The Zach's Playground in St. Charles, that was about 750. But that was in 2010 when she built that, so you have to take that into account.
So is there a lot more to it? I'm sorry, I said I was going to limit myself, but just give me the floor, and I have so many. Is there a lot more to it than this?
Yes.
Okay. It's not like...
It was kind of difficult. I mean, we took pictures when we went there, but they didn't really show anything, and it was kind of difficult to find some. And I couldn't find a good aerial. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
And I really just couldn't find a good aerial. It's one of those things you really need to just walk it and just kind of take it in and see. They're just unbelievable what they're able to do. I mean, all playgrounds that are of that caliber are unique and just fantastic to play. But when you walk around and you see what can be done on these for people of all abilities, that's really where you kind of get the wow factor, and you start getting excited, like, wow, we could do something like this here in our town.
I might add, when we were down there, one of the neatest things that Nathan and I were talking about on the way home was the very first playground we went to, there was probably 35, 40 kids playing out there. We didn't see one special needs person playing, and these kids had no idea that they were on an all-inclusive playground. It's a playground for anybody to play on. It's been the most excited I've been leaving something since Nathan and I have been working together. It was really something. So I'm excited about this.
Okay, I have one last question, and then I'll be quiet. Okay, since we're limited on our time frame of when we have to use this GEO bond money, I mean, doesn't that kind of, I mean, we don't know how long it's going to take to raise the money. I mean, we really can't, we have stuff we have to do at Hockridge Park. I mean, doesn't it kind of put us in a weird situation between having to tie things up with fundraising and wanting to do something that we don't really know a lot?
It's an excellent question. There are a couple things that we can do. Number one is we can take that money and pre-purchase some of the equipment that makes that expenditure meet the deadline for the GEO bond, even though it's not installed. Or we can begin doing some of the ground prep or the surfacing, even though we haven't got all the way there. A lot of those questions will be answered in the design of it, but it's kind of one of those catch-22s. Fortunately, there's not a lot there, so it's not like a Brewster's Million, but at the same time, there is enough there that we do have to take that into consideration. So it's one of those things. It's kind of the reason why we're bringing it to you tonight instead of going through those work sessions. Frankly, I wish we'd have kind of stumbled upon this group about this time last year. Would have been a lot better, but we didn't. We didn't know about them. But as soon as we did find out, I mean, we acted as fast as we could.
Better now than...
Yes, better now than...
2 years from now.
Absolutely. And I think the connections that we'll make, if the board decides to do this, I think the connections that we'll make will also benefit us in future playgrounds if we choose to do something like that. Not necessarily with this group, but the connections that this group will introduce us to in moving forward and doing some other neat and unique things.
We can also separate the playground area from the rest of the park development, couldn't we? Treat that as a separate entity.
Yes, sir. The majority of the park will will move forward. It's not going to stall progress on the park. It's just that play area and those dollars designated to that playground that we have in there.
So we don't have to have completion under the deadline for the GO bond because that project could be separated.
Right, but
Correct.
don't we still have a playground in there that we have to build for that, in that GO bond? Isn't that part of the,
It's progress. It doesn't have to be complete.
oh, I thought it had to be completed in that 3 years.
No.
Utilized. It just has to be utilized.
The money has to be designated and allocated to the appropriate fund or to the appropriate projects, but they don't have to be finished. It just has to be in progress.
Well, okay, well, that's good.
Jenny. I'm sorry, Sheldon. You're gonna have to quit hiding.
Two questions. On their fundraising, do they tend to localize that, or will they work the region? What's their standard?
Typically, what they do is they develop a team. They will work with our communications department to help develop a marketing strategy for that fundraising campaign and develop a team locally. And we, first steps is target local. Okay. And that's the Raymore, Belton, North Cass area. And big corporate sponsors is where their connections are. We have the local connections, so they use our team, and then that team works with them on more of the corporate sponsors.
Another I'm asking an opinion. The rail car money, trail light money, it's in limbo. Can we campaign for that?
I'm sure you can bring that up, but that is at the discretion of the city manager.
Okay. Well, I mean, it was intended for parks.
Yes, sir, it was.
I mean, from a theoretical standpoint, I see no reason why we can't ask the question.
I think a lot of that is waiting on the bid process to see where the rest of the projects
Okay.
come out in terms of bidding and being within budget.
And Michelle.
Is the $10,000 fee their entire fee that they want for their help and their input?
Yes, ma'am.
There's no other on the back end, or, okay,
It is a flat rate.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Is it a question, Brian?
It is.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So the one thing that really stands out to me is the MOU that Raymore, number 3, will work with Unlimited Play to come up with the design. But Unlimited Play, but you have to work with Unlimited Play's preferred vendor, Little Tykes Commercial.
Yes.
Now, I look at this two ways, and maybe you do have an answer. One, it kind of limits your bargaining power of looking at more than one vendor. So you're going to pay whatever price it is because that's the vendor you got to work with. But on the flip side, maybe they have a good work relationship with Little Tykes that you're getting a deal because you're doing it through Unlimited Play. Which one holds true?
Both. They've already
They
gone.
contradict each other.
When they've actually already gone out and done their bidding and worked with the major playground suppliers. And so the Little Tykes are the ones that, for lack of better words, won the bid to partner with them exclusively. So that particular area, the 3 quoting, the bidding process has already been done. And that's part of the MOU, which kind of takes us away from having to do that on our end because they already have.
Okay.
And so we actually talked with them at length about that because I was pretty concerned that that would violate our procurement process. But in the way that we're not the first city they've ever worked with, so that's not the same. I mean, they have the same scenario with all the other cities. So the process that they did allows municipalities to partner with them and be exclusive to Little Tykes. That's part of it.
Okay. The other piece of this is we're basically paying them $10,000 for 4 services: design, fundraising, public relation, and construction supervision. I don't want to say this and make it sound bad, are these not things that we could do internally? And I can almost guarantee this is things we can do internally. Is it worth the $10,000 to use their expertise for this particular project?
Excellent question.
Especially in the design services, I would assume.
I would say yes. These are some things that we can do internally. I mean, this is what we do. At the level of incorporating the inclusiveness with just a normal playground, that's what they do. And there's so many things just in the 3 hours that I spent with them that I'm like, wow, I had no idea about that. That's their expertise. It boils down to just being, it's a design consultant for a specialized product. And can we do that? Yes. Can we do it at their level? No. Is it wasted money? Absolutely not. And I think if you ask any one of these people that have worked with them and the way their project elevated to this level, without hesitation, every one of them would say we have no regrets.
Further on that, I would say that I looked at that also. And considering the demands on staff currently, with all the projects they have, to expect them to come up with an in-house design where there are no expertise in those areas, it would make sense to go outside and find a partnership with somebody that has that ability so we don't get lost in the weeds. Melinda.
Have we done that? Have we asked other cities? How well did you guys work with them? How did they do? What would you do differently?
Yeah, actually we have. We've talked to several people, especially within our conferences, and just the connections that we have, and there's just really has been no negative comments about this process other than they've been great to work with. They've given us the project we wanted. You know, it's one of those things, though, that when it's a fundraising effort, and that's something that we as a board, in my tenure with Raymore since 2002, we really haven't jumped into that fundraising effort. We've always self-funded. So it'll be kind of a learning experience, and it may take a little patience because we know what we want, and now it's kind of watching paint dry. You know it's there, you know it's coming, but you just kind of got to wait and keep that fundraising effort. So to answer your question, yes, we have talked with several folks, and not one person has, without hesitation, said don't do this. You know, the other thing is, it's just, I kind of lost my train of thought. You got me talking. There's just things about this that I think can enhance the things that we're really good at, that we can partner with them and go from really good to excellent. And that's the reason why I feel like this is a good partnership if the board feels the same way.
Michelle.
That's why I asked last meeting if their children or if they had people in their family who are disabled, because when you have that experience and that every day dealing with that, it makes it so much more in the forefront, and knowing how to make a slide and a swing accessible for those kind of kids versus someone that builds just regular playgrounds that has no idea. They may in theory think they know, but until you have someone that you actually deal with on a daily basis, it makes a huge difference on it actually being inclusive.
Yes. I would say to answer your question as well, we can pick inclusive play pieces and design a playground. But what Steve and I both learned was building an inclusive playground and then, you know, entwining that with inclusive programming and how to make this piece fit with this piece so that a child in a wheelchair can have parallel play along with a child that's not in a wheelchair. Those are the things that you just don't think about until you're in that scenario. Both Natalie, the owner of the company, her son is, if you read the article, explains, you know, the challenges they have. And then Jim, the other gentleman that we worked with, his son Jake was, and there's a Jake's Playground that's in process now. His son Jake was special needs, and his son passed away, and Jim sold his business and went in full time with this because he felt so strongly about it as well. And so, I mean, they have that experience firsthand, not just from the business side of it, but from a personal side of it, which is what makes them so passionate.
Sheldon.
Nathan, since this is an effective contract, I was wondering about the term of it, and I see that it's to expire in 2018. Have we set a date, or will we set a date, or what you expect when this agreement would expire, assuming other things are still pending? We just renegotiate this?
Yes, that was the next step I was going to talk about, the timeline. What you see in that is basically a template of their MOU. The city attorney has already reviewed it and made his comments of the changing, the generic words in there to be more specific to Raymore. The MOU, from a term limit perspective, that's where we would negotiate with them. That comes in with the timeline. So if you look on page 2 of your packet there, the project timeline, we're at the first one, which is a recommendation to the park board. The next step would be the review of the MOU of the city attorney, which he's already done, and now we would present that to Unlimited Play. The next step would be a presentation to the city council with an updated MOU, a timeline, all of those things, that presentation, that a joint work session with the board and the city council. From that point forward, we move in with the first and second read of that contract. So those things would be worked out in conjunction with just the process of going through and introducing these folks to you on a formal basis and working that.
Steve.
Okay, so under Schedule A, the support services, number 2. We've already talked about time constraints on staff, and we've talked about lack of knowledge about fundraising. So there's a line in here that says, Unlimited Play will assist owner in assembling a local fundraising team and implementing fundraising strategies. I guess my question would be, have you guys talked to them about how they build this, and is that going to be thrown back on you guys' plate, or do they have, because if we're going to implement a local team, that's not our strength to fundraise, as we talked about. We haven't since 2002 or before, and the time constraints that we talked about on staff. Did they have an idea of how that was going to come out, or have we not gotten that far?
I would hesitate to say that the time constraints will prevent us from doing the job. Whether we did this or not, we still have a playground to build. So that doesn't really enter our minds in terms of, do we have time to do this or not? What does enter my mind is, okay, so we need to fundraise. We want to do this. How do we do it? That's where they come in. They work with us from a staff perspective to identify the right team, the right folks, the right venues to go after that. But then they train us and give us tips and tools how to go forth and to do those things. So it's a pretty in-depth process as far as the training for us to move forward and go out. And when I say us, I mean the team that we design, which I would assume many of you would be a part of that. Other people within our civic groups, local civic, whether the Rotary, the Optimist Club, other department staff, people, just residents that are interested and want to take part of this process, much like the Charter Commission that was just decommissioned last night. Those are residents that had an interest in that. So we would identify those folks and build that team, and then they would give us those tools and teach us how to move forward. Most of that, I would say, would probably fall on me to go before those groups and make those presentations and do some of that stuff, and I'm more than happy to do that. That is what we do. So I don't feel like, and I think Steve would vouch for this, I don't feel like they're going to just set all this up and say, okay, go, without giving us some guidance on that. She spent a lot of time over here building other playgrounds across the state, and in this area, there's relationships there that they said, that they would be a part of. This is their job too, so they want it to be successful as well. They're not just, that's what's unique about them. They're not in it for the money. Otherwise, their fees would be much more than $10,000. Now, that's not chump change. That's a significant amount of money. but they're not in it for a commission or anything like that. That is their fees, and that's what it is, but they're here to see the completion of that. And their mission is to have playgrounds that are all-inclusive for people of all abilities, not just to get this project done and move forward. So we felt like the commitment would be there from the beginning through the end.
There's a question, Brian? All right, if there's no further questions, I'll entertain a motion at this time. Brian?
I move we present the MOU with unlimited play for the all-inclusive playground at Hockridge Park to the City Council.
Second.
All right, the motion's been made and second to accept this MOU with unlimited play. Any discussion? Sheldon?
No discussion, but a point that fundraising is going to be a big issue. John and I and Monique with the Park Foundation, there's a lot of pushback from that. What we've got locally, we about wore out Walmart, some of the places looking for, there's people who are willing to put legacy donations out. Shields, Academy Sports is looking out, are available. But the guidance for fundraising is going to be a key thing. We lost a big guide when Ernie Van Hooser left the Park Foundation when he moved on and retired. But that's going to turn a lot of wheels if we can get that rolling. It's very difficult to get it started, but you got to know who to ask. Got to know who to ask.
Point taken. All right, any further discussion? All right, in that case, I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor? All right. It passes 8, 1 absent. Director Musting.
So I will work with the city manager to put an agenda item on a future work session to present this to the council, and then I will inform the board of that date.
Correct. Thank you. All right, we don't have public comment. We'll go to board member comments at this time. Brian?
I have nothing this evening, sir.
All right, thank you. Jenny? All right. Steve?
I just want to say thanks to the staff and the continued work that you do as I see the agendas and how full they are with meetings and then things going on in the public eye, the Veterans Day, and then the Christmas celebration or holiday celebration. I'm appreciative of the time you guys put into it, all of you included, so thank you.
All right. Sheldon?
I was just noting the events at Centerview. That's pretty solid November. Great.
Okay. Melinda?
Well, since this is our November, December meeting, I'll say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Safe New Year, and we'll see you guys next year. That's all I got.
All right. Michelle?
I was going to say the same thing. We're not going to meet again till January, so happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Be safe, and thank you all for your work.
Jim?
Happy holidays. That's it.
On my part, I want to thank the staff again for an excellent year. Also, City Council, since they decided to light up the building, specifically Centerview, which is a park building. Hopefully that will add to the charm of that building so that during the seasons it could be utilized more readily by citizens that would enjoy being in that, to see all the lighting and the camaraderie that can be enjoyed inside that building. So that being said, and with the holidays in mind, wishing you all the best, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
All right, motion been made and second for adjournment. All those in favor? All right, 8. It's passed. We're formally adjourned.